Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 34 of Rise Up the Podcast, the best podcast in the world of lacrosse. I am back here with Greg Grenley, and he took a week off. He worked Deemer Class's best-in-class event last week, so he was out of commission, but I know he was grinding down there. Scotty, he's on the grind this week yet again. He's working with the PLL Academy. These guys are always doing great stuff, giving back to the youth. But, Greg, great to see you. We got a lot to break down. What a weekend of lacrosse we had. We got World Games coming up, but, first off, talk to me about Deemer's event last weekend. How was your weekend?
Yeah, man, it was good to see you, dude. I feel like I haven't gone this long without seeing your gorgeous face since, December. Yeah, it was great. Best in class, Deemer class started a few years ago. And watching Deemer over the years, I still remember our first conversations when he was picking my brain about how we did FOA, and he wanted to create this training platform online, and it's turned into just an unbelievable situation. He's got a massive following. He does a great job with content. He also has Matt Dunn doing the defensive side with him. He's got a whole bunch of young offensive minds. He does the women's side as well. Deemer is one of the good guys in lacrosse, and not just the sport, but also the industry that lacrosse has become, and he means so well. The best in class thing really set the bar a few years ago. It's at Chase Fieldhouse in Wilmington. And the idea was, look, we have a whole bunch of showcases where people roll a bucket of balls out. You have a practice for 10 minutes. You get put on a team and you just play games. And sometimes the games are good. A lot of times the games are shitty because people don't really know, there's no coaching really per se. So Deemer decided, what if college coaches could come watch you get coached by the best people at their respective positions, then see how you take that information, then do games. A massive hit. And it's crazy. Sibes, literally the top 40 Division I schools were represented in their chairs, and many of which were head coaches. It was just a great experience, and he does a great job. So I'm just happy for him that it is what it is. And he's grinding again. Women are going this week, so it was cool to do it. But I'm glad to be back in the chair. What events are you doing this summer?
I actually was supposed to head down to Naptown next week. I just pulled the trigger out of that. It's my mom's birthday next weekend, so I'm heading back home to Boston.
Wait, next weekend is Naptown?
Yeah, the 25th, 26th.
Oh, okay. I'm going to be there after that. Thank God.
Okay. I help out with this program, Unreal National. They're based out of Minnesota. They did a team a couple years back in partnership with Movember, and I'm pretty involved with the Movember Foundation. They set us up. Me and my boy Cooch did it together, and I've been in touch with them. And I kind of am a plug and play guy for them, and I talked to them. I said, I love doing this. I'd love to be more involved. So starting the fall, I'm going to be very involved with their youth programs, developing their youth national teams, which is kind of crazy, the youth national programs. But, yeah, it's going to be a blast. So right now I'm plug and play right now for the summer and the high school teams. Last week I think there was one in Philly. The Unreal team did pretty well. They went 2-2. My boy Gavin Durham, who just graduated Villanova, he went down and helped coach down there. So it was great. So, yeah, I think I'm not sure what's after Naptown, but I think I might be going to that one in July.
Very cool.
For that national event. But yeah, I mean, you know me, I love staying involved any way I can. So that's kind of my fix these days.
Yeah, I tell guys, there's a few events that are can't miss. If you are a rising junior, one of which is best in class. If you have an opportunity to go to best in class and you turn it down, you're a fool. I'm just going to be dead honest with kids.
I'm sure they're turning away kids more than kids. Yeah.
Second is Maverick Showtime. Kark has done such an awesome job. That's a who's who. Juniors Open's a pretty good one to kick off as well. Kick off the summer. And Chandic has 1%. And those are some heavy hitters. And then Main Stage. ML8 Events does a great job. Main Stage is a glorious event. So yeah, but let's talk about the big boys because we got a lot to catch up on, man.
We have a lot to catch up on. I wasn't able, hand up, to watch any games this weekend because I was actually down at a wedding at the Naval Academy in Annapolis. Beautiful wedding. Congratulations, Jack Ray and MJ White. There's a bunch of Navy Lax guys down there. They had a blast. It was
your way into Fagers? Not Fagers, Pussers?
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
I was in Pussers.
Yes,
It
you
was
were.
it was after the welcome drinks night, so the first night, and I'm in there, and I texted a couple of my buddies. I was like, how don't people get pushed in here? Like it's so close. And my buddy TJ Camizio told me a funny story that at the MLL All Star game down in Annapolis, was it 2019 or 2019,
Yeah.
that Dylan Ward was doing laps from one side to the other.
Yeah, there's that weird stuff goes down there. You never know what kind of terrible thing might happen at that bar. Like people have been literally like stabbed and then the person tries to get away by jumping in the water. Really random stuff. But anyway, yeah, let's talk Turkey here. So,
Yep. So yeah, I got back.
I
I was able to watch all those games on YouTube yesterday. So I had a nice,
good.
took them all in. So I'm ready to
I
rock
did
on 'em.
watch the games because I, have betting interest in it. So one of my favorite things, and I was tweeting about it before the weekend started. Dude, bet plus 1.5 in the PLL, man. It is almost an absolute guarantee you're going to make money. So I did that for all 4 games. Obviously, the Redwoods didn't pull it off, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then in a shocking turn of events, I went with the over with the Chaos just because I had faith in their offense. And that game hit the over. So, yeah, there's a lot of lines that are starting to shape up. And now that we've done this for a year or two, like it's getting you're starting to see patterns in this league.
So you mentioned that, and a stat came out that 8 of the 12 games this year have been decided by 1 goal. That's crazy parity, and you really don't see it in any other professional leagues.
And it's been happening since week 1 of the first year,
Yeah.
size.
You're right. You're
That's
absolutely
why
right.
when people are like, "Oh, we need expansion," you're like, "But the wider it gets, the less you're going to see this." So, whatever. But I thought it was. I think it's pretty cool. So let's talk about the first game.
Well, but actually, before we get into game by game breakdown, there's a trend that I also saw some people talking about online that I'd love to get your opinion on, because we talked about earlier this year about the new rule change with the face-off and the shot clock after the face-off. And this week, every single team that had a face-off advantage lost, which blows my mind. And do you see that as a result of the rule change, or how are you kind of looking at that?
Well, here's where, because you know how I stand on how the officiating is done, and it is what it is. Like, guys are doing their thing, so whatever. But people have to understand the patterns that were there before. I know it's real easy to like freak out and be like, "Oh, look at this. It's not even worth winning a face-off." Okay, hold on a second. Let's do a little bit more. Let's add some more data to this. So I can from experience from 2012 to 2017, those seasons until I retired. For 6 years when I played for the Lizards, we led the league in face-off percentage. My overall win-loss record for the Lizards organization in that period of time was barely above 50%, and I have 1 ring. So when you tell me that this is a new thing because of the shorter shot clock, I'm not buying it yet. I'm also someone that's like, look, I need to wait and see how things play out, because I tweeted about it. Yes, the reactionary thing is like, whoa, this is going to make things a little sloppy. But there are ways to do this. Like, if I just think face-off guys and coaches need to be a little bit more cerebral about it, and I think you need to give them time to experience it. So if I was playing right now, I would do one of 2 things. I would either win the face-off, take it to the rack as fast as I could, and if nobody's open, I would shoot it wide of the goal, get the stoppage, sprint off the field. And you still have 29, 28 seconds, right? The other thing I would do is I would have either an offensive-minded or at least a 2-way midi. So if I was on the Redwoods, I'd have Perk out there. And on my wing, we'd get the ball. Now we just got to transfer 2 guys. We would send the LSM to the box. We'd cycle it on offense, and then we would immediately have the top midi dodge. As the face-off guy, I'd come up out of the crease to set a pick, and then I burn it to the midline. If I screw the guy over and he's stuck on the field, he's stuck on the field for 20 seconds. You have a face-off guy stuck on the field against your offense for 20 seconds. You should be able to do something with that. Or he comes with me, and now there's no slide. So now you can take it right to the goal. These are the things that I think we need to give teams time to understand, because maybe it seems like the face-off guys aren't thinking of it on their own, but there's great offensive minds on those sidelines and the coaching staff.
I think you bring up such great points, and there are different ways to strategize it and game it. And I think we've seen bits and pieces, like you said, but it's still so new that I
Yeah.
do think that they're feeling it out. But that's a great point, and I
But
think to your
I will say this though, to be fair, I think a lot of people are going by the eye test, which I can respect, and they're saying, well, it just looks sloppy. That I understand. But once again, like I just said, just give it a little bit of time. I know overall the coaches don't like it. And look, it's not like it's one of those situations in the PLL where you're like, well, we have a shitty face-off guy, so I don't care. I hope we keep it shorter. There's 8 spots, and those should be the 8 best face-off guys in the world. Aside from Trevor, it's fair game for the most part. But yeah, what do you think? Would you think they should put it back in?
I have a couple. I mean, you know my take on the shot clock in general. I think the shot clock in general is a little too quick.
Yeah.
But I, to your original point of your time with the Lizards, that makes me think. This week all 4 teams winning the face-off advantage is just kind of a statistical anomaly, and if you get enough data, it bubbles out where the team that wins more face-offs is still going to win more games. But I was actually listening to our boy Dan Arestia's podcast today, and he said that he thinks that this will be the last year, or excuse me, last year will be the last time a face-off man ever wins an MVP, because of now with these rules, it's almost devaluing or making face-offs just less important in the overall scheme of the game. What do you think about
Yes,
that?
that I agree with. I think there have been 2 moments where we've had sweeping reactionary rule changes in the pro game. When I won the MVP in 2015, the next year they got rid of carrying the ball in the back of your stick because I learned to use it as an absolute weapon, which I was on board with. I was like, look, this is obviously easy for me to exploit, but I think it's bad for the game. The PLL was reactionary in making it a shorter clock because they took a page out of the indoor book, where in indoor the faceoffs aren't as important because the shot clock overall is so fast, and said, we don't want just the best faceoff guy to win MVP every year, which you and I both know is ridiculous, because same thing with Trevor's year as my year. If Lyle Thompson goes to the playoffs with the points he was putting up, he wins MVP, right? So you needed everything to fall in place and for Trevor to have a record-breaking type of season. But yes, this definitely puts it like you are not going to get an MVP faceoff guy now ever again with this. And as somebody who would love to make sure that's just Trevor and I for the rest of our lives, I'm not the Miami Dolphins from 1972. I would like faceoff guys to continue to have an impact on the game. I still just think we need to play a full season with this to see if anybody comes up with some cool concepts.
I agree. And last thing I'll say or ask you about this: do you see it sticking? Do you see them reverting to the old ways, or what do you think?
Well, there's 2 different ways to answer that. One is, are they going to have a meeting at the end of the year, and are all the coaches with cool heads going to have a decision with the PLL office and say, look, this is what it was. It was terrible for us. But that's also been happening with the face-offs and the way they're officiated since the beginning. The other side of this is I don't know if the front office of the PLL is willing to admit if they made a mistake or not. Okay, I'm just being honest. So if all the coaches get in a room and say this is terrible, I don't know if the people who have a say in it are willing to say, okay, then let's meet in the middle. Because what I'm getting a lot of, Sibes, is not make it 52, keep it 52. What I'm hearing a lot of, just a little bit more time. So if they made it like 42, I think people would be happy. I just don't know if people are willing to take out the ego and say, okay, yeah, this was kind of a mistake. We'll see.
What I'm curious too, and this is just kind of, you jogged my memory or my thought process while you were answering that, is I feel that, in the NCAA, if there's proposed rule changes, what do they normally do? They test them out in fall ball scrimmages.
Yes.
And they get samples of how people like the rules, how the game flow is played with the new rules, and that's how they test out those changes. Does the PLO have those kind of test groups where they're able to do this, or like how does that work for rule changes?
They had it in the first year. So in 2019 we had training camp, and I think the initial idea was that I forget what the shot clock was supposed to be. It was supposed to be faster than 52 seconds. And I remember after the first scrimmage, we were all like, yo, dude, no way. It was also the first time that we were kind of testing out the new rules, lining up a little bit higher with the ball, etc. Now, two things happened. One, we have to remember that the PLL officials are also NCAA officials. So even like Matty Palin wasn't there till like after Memorial Day. So it's hard for them to all test this out the real way it's going to be. So training camp is supposed to be when you try this stuff. I just don't know. I don't know how much it was put in, how much it was monitored, etc. But it's not like you can say, let's try it in sixes.
I know, but the PLL could say to colleges, right? Try this out in fall ball scrimmages and let us know what you think, right?
I'm going to tell you right now, Sibes, if the NCAA, people who are in charge of the NCAA, had the ability to swallow their egos and say, you know what, Mike and Paul, you guys are onto something with this, the way you guys are doing this. You guys are, we would have a lot less issues in lacrosse. But I know for years, like, look at the MLL, proved right away shot clock was exactly what we needed in the sport. And it took another 15, 20 years for us to finally get it. There's too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to the NCAA Rules Committee. Trust me. But until that happens, I would love for the NCAA to watch how the PLL does things and say, you know, that's a pretty cool concept. Like, let's put that in fall ball, et cetera. But never going to happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I agree. It'd be nice to see some coordination, and I think it would help everyone when it comes to, you know, you saw high schools, right? I think some public high schools still play that NHS, whatever it is, rules, but I think predominantly high schools now play NCAA rules, and that's the way it should be for these kids who are transitioning from high school to college to get them in the mix, right?
Well, the prep schools definitely do. The private schools do because they have the funding. They can do a shot clock, and a lot of these prep schools are like you're preparing to play in college. Public schools, I know here Section 1 in Westchester are probably going to move to a shot clock next year. So you're going to see that kind of happen. But you know, I really like the shorter restart after a post or a save, especially a penalty. I always hated when you'd get a fresh 60 after a bogus, like, shitty push call with 1 second left on the clock and stuff. But I feel like there needs to be a few more seconds added. I think 40 seconds would make everyone pretty happy.
That's a good point. We'll see what happens. We'll keep following it, keep our fingers to the pulse. But let's move into the games. You know, you watched every single one. What game? We won't go in chronological order because there's no fun in that. I want to know which game was your favorite to watch as a spectator. Which one had you on the edge of your seat, or which one did you?
The Dogs.
Yeah, I mean,
dude.
What
as a
game.
person who had the Dogs at 1.5, at plus 1.5. And then Connor Kelly buries a 2 with short clock. Dude, Connor Kelly was him. Like, absolutely. There were a few dudes that showed up this week where you were like, World Games are coming up. Like, people have some extra juice, whether you made the team or didn't make the team. But it was just like, yo, Connor Kelly was him this past weekend. It was awesome. What about you?
That game was crazy. I saw the final score, and then as I was like on Twitter this weekend, and then yesterday I went back and watched all the YouTube highlights, and PLO does a great job with the YouTube highlights. They're each like 20 minutes long. You can see the whole game basically. And
it's like having red zone for lacrosse.
Exactly. And it was my jaw was on the floor. Crazy collapse by the Atlas, and you know, this is the Water Dogs scored more this week than they did the previous 2 weeks combined. They scored single.
This was the first week that they played, and there wasn't an obnoxious runaway by one team or another. So in week 1, they run away, and then they get caught and lose. Then they play the Redwoods, and was it the other way around? Which way?
They won in overtime. Connor Kelly scored an overtime winner against the. They lost to the Redwoods by 1 last week.
That's right. They jumped out like 6-0 on the Woods. Yeah. And Riley, the rookie faceoff man, was like, he won like 6 out of 8 to start the game. And then the Woods came back. And in their first game, they were down big and they came back. And then
And
in
you
this
want,
third game, I mean, they're just fun to watch. And they don't even have Withers right now, by the way. They're going to get him back after the World Games. So that'll be even another cool wrinkle that they're going to have.
I mean, what a game for the sport in general. We always talk about how the game's trying to grow. The PLL's marketing the game for the spectators, keeping it interesting. Shortening the quarters to 12 minutes, the shot clock. Right? It's for action, and this game had a lot of it. The comeback was insane. The fourth quarter performance by Connor Kelly, and then he gets the game winner.
Dude.
That in that sequence.
Hey,
I know,
another plot is the Water Dogs switched goalies in that game.
so on the broadcast, they said that Ward pulled himself,
Yeah.
and which is interesting because I predicted that Ward was going to get the start this game, that he was going to be back and ready for off his NLL season, and he's their guy. And DeLuca did a fine job in his first 2 weeks.
Dude, Luke is a very, very good pro goalie. Like,
There's only
coming out of college, you knew he was
same
going to
thing
be
with
good.
faceoffs. There's only so many positions. There's only
Yeah.
so many goalies in the world that get to be a starter in the PLL, and there's plenty of goalies that are backups on rosters and that aren't even on rosters that are very capable goaltenders. But
Yeah.
interesting move, and I think it's a veteran move by Dylan Ward saying, I don't have it today.
Well, the only reason I'm fascinated by it is because the World Games start this week. And Wardo is Team Canada's guy. He has been he was the biggest reason they won the gold medal against us in 2014. He was awesome again in 2018. So it's just interesting to see that. But, maybe, and I honestly didn't think he was doing that bad. So that's why I was.
He was over. I think he was over 50% in his first 2 weeks. He was a little under 50% this week, but so was Concan. This wasn't a great game for either goalies. Great game if you're on the offensive side of the field, and a lot of action if you're a face-off guy. A lot of goals, but the way that the Water Dogs came back is what makes the PLL and Pro Lacrosse so much. I think more. No lead is safe when compared to college, even with the shot clock in college.
Dude, in college, when you were up by 5 goals going into the fourth quarter, your
Over.
freshmen were in. It was over. You were just going to hold the ball for 6 minutes at a time, win 3 faceoffs, and the game is over. Fourth quarter of lacrosse, looking back on it now in college, was the worst thing to ever watch. It's like watching World Games lacrosse. Slow,
I was just gonna
no
say.
blocks. Yeah.
I was
And then I got to the pros, and I was like, we're down 6 goals my rookie year in Rochester. I'm like, oh no. And then we win by like 5. I'm like, this place is nuts.
Yeah.
And the PLL, dude, no lead is safe. Nothing is safe in the PLL. That's why it's cool. One good outlet, and 4 steps later, you can hit it too. So it's just crazy.
So many people were involved on offense on both sides. I think that Atlas, defensively, this is not good, and especially holding that lead. I think I saw some clips in the press conference after the game that Coach Pressler just wasn't happy, and that last scenario, this game should have went to overtime, and I don't know who, someone subbed off, and Logan came out of the box late. It was a bad defensive sub, and that's what sprung Kelly, who was able to basically go right down Main Street and have a 1-on-0 with Concan. No one slid to him, really, or if someone slid, it was too late. And I think that's something that's still just early season lacrosse, and defenses will tighten up. But, I mean, this many goals was, in this comeback, it was just awesome to see.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. As all the years I played, you would still see guys who have been playing lacrosse at the highest level, 2, 3-time All-Americans, multiple All-Star games in the pros, make weird mistakes. And that's honestly what happens when you're not practicing every day. And, it's still getting there. The PL's still getting there where they get one night of practice, they have to show up, and they have to play the next day. So their continuity is still there. And if you're a rookie coming in, or if you're a younger guy and you haven't played as much, those little moments are so vital because the field is so short, and these are the best players in the world. And if you give them an inch, they're going to kill you. So, yeah, this is stuff where, unfortunately, live and learn, but it costs you a W. And it's a shame because, like we said earlier, Trevor, at least in the PLL era, had a record 31 face-off wins. It's an overall pro outdoor record. The old record for ground balls in a single game was set by Paul Canabine with 23, and Trevor had 29, which is nuts to
Insane.
even bend over that many times and pick up a ball. And he had 31 faceoff wins, which in the PLL era is a record, breaking his own record. So you just, I texted Trevor after the game. I'm like, man, I had a lot of these types of moments. You're like, dude, I just went 90%. How did we lose? And you just like, it can be really defeating. Because we know when you lose a game, usually they just blame it on the faceoff guy.
Yeah.
Can't do it now.
So that's a recap in that game. I think both these teams are going to be in the mix down the stretch, and they have so much talent on all ends of the field. But let's move on to another awesome storyline from last weekend. The Cannons winning their first game of the season against the Chrome, 14-13. You saw the emotions from the players, from Coach Holman. I think this win for the Cannons was a long time coming. For the players that were on the team last year that kind of had to go through that pretty disappointing season to the new influx of players this year that were hungry, and you could see just how happy and how rewarding this win was for them, and it was a must-win game.
When was the last game that the Cannons won?
They had one win last year, so at some point last year,
Damn near a year. I feel like they won the first one last year and then lost the rest or something.
Let's see if I can pull it up, but you go talk about this game.
Yeah, so we talked a lot about the Cannons this offseason, and we talked about before Cork left, before they picked up Holman, before they traded for Holman's son, before they made their moves, that we didn't think they were far off. And even in the first couple weeks, they weren't getting blown out by any teams. It's kind of the same thing, just coming up short. Finally getting over the hump is such a big deal because in order to be able to know that something can happen, you have to be able to witness it happening, right? It's like, yo, you can fly. It's like, dude, no one can fly. But if you see a couple guys down the street flying, you're like, how do I do that? I want to do that. Same thing here. It's like, guys, we can do it. And you have a new coach who has a very different outlook on things. And his biggest thing, and I've actually talked to Coach Holman last week, where he's just like, I just need these guys to believe that what I'm talking about works. And I think you're going to start getting that now, seeing that they got this W.
You were absolutely right. Their last win was week 1 of the 2022 season against the Water Dogs, 16-10.
Yeah.
And then they lost 9 in a row after that, and then they lost 2 to start the season. So, I'm happy for them. Great win. It was awesome to see, the cool storyline of, Holman and his father, Father's Day weekend. It was awesome seeing Matt Kavanaugh score the game winner. I know that he's really trying to find his groove back, and, he's playing with that fire and intensity that we talked about all college season with his younger brothers. That starts with him. That comes from him, and it's great seeing him have success. Holman is continuing to just be so consistent. He, is really doing a great job on that Cannons offense. It's great seeing a guy like Chris Islanian. He's playing a bigger and bigger role, and I think he's jumped around.
Armenian shout out.
He's jumped around a few teams in the PLL, and it seems like he's found his home with the Cannons. He's an important part to their midfield. And then my guy Matt Campbell, rookie coming out of Villanova, he seems to be fitting right into the offense. I look at him when he played at Villanova. He was the guy, and he had to do a lot. But he's such a smart player and understands the game where he knows that he doesn't have to play that, such a ball-dominant, dodge to the goal score role in the pros. And he's figured that out fairly quickly from what I've seen. He's getting the ball moving, swinging the ball through X, finding open men. And that's so big for a rookie's transition, I feel like, in my mind.
Yeah, let the game come to you. I know that's the general rookie way of looking at things is I don't know where I fit in yet, so I'm just going to bang the ball to guys that I looked up to. You get on the field, and he undoubtedly watched Holman growing up going, man, look at that guy. Or he could do it like Dordovic does and just take 47 shots a game. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I think the offense for the Cannons are doing a good job of meshing. I believe in Brian Holman so much as a coach, and it was just cool to see Marcus like giving his dad the shower at the end, and it was pretty cool. So good for them. I hopefully this is one of many.
If you're a Chrome fan, starting the season 1-2, they came off, they won the Sixes tournament. They had a really good season last year, and now they seem like they've lost their identity. Not their identity, but they just don't seem like they're meshing right now. And Malloy wasn't in the lineup the first 2 weeks. He's back. He chipped in a couple goals, some helpers. So it was good seeing him back in the mix. They didn't play Colin Heacock this week, which surprised me.
That is surprising.
And I think the Cannons defense did a great job on Jackson Morrill. He's been playing very well for the Chrome, and they really held him in check. And was now just had a good game. Coming off a couple maybe not so good, but I think the rookies last week and this week, Cross, Ferreira, and Handley. We'll have Handley on later in this episode. I'm sure he'll talk about what he's feeling, what he's thinking, how he's transitioning. But they haven't really been producing, which I think that they're relying on Handley, and as they should, right? He was their first round pick, and I think it's just going to take time for him to adjust, just like anything else. But I think they'll figure it out, and it's easy to say they'll figure it out, but it's just you look up and down the roster. There's too many good players for them not to, right?
Yeah, but it's I mean every team is loaded. Everybody's got studs. It's just a matter of finding the right people in the right places to mesh so the locker room works and then it works on the field. And once again on face-offs, right? They have Connor Farrell, one of the best in the world. You have a stalwart there. You're going to get your possessions. It's just a matter of can he get the ball to the right person quickly so that he can get off the field with this shortened clock. I also think that there's something to be said about just Nick Turn, right, was a big part of what they were doing last year. And I think when you don't have that and you have rookies coming in trying to fill the holes, it's going to change the way you do things. Heacock not in is a head scratcher. And I'm curious if it's one of those things where early in the season, let's see who meshes well, or let's get a rookie more touches so that I know whether he's going to be a guy or not for us. You never really know what's in Sood's mind, but I'm never going to doubt Sood's. So, now on the defensive side of the ball, I think they're fine. I think offensively they just got to get some kind of rhythm down.
I think Scanoni in net hasn't had the best start to the season. I know he's their guy, and they love him in the cage, but they have a first-team All-American goalie from Georgetown, Owen McElroy, backing him up, and he hasn't had much time in the PLL. And you just saw the Cannons. They went away from Gittleman. They went with Kirst. Kirst gets his his second start ever, his first win. So, why not just give him a try if Scanoni's not seeing the ball, right now? It doesn't mean he won't see the ball later in the season, but sometimes, you just got to change things, mix it up, and roll it out, see what happens. But I wouldn't be surprised if McElroy gets some time. We have a big break till the next PLL games, but I think be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next game, Chaos 15, Archers 10. After the first 2 weeks, I was ready to name the Archers the champions. I thought I was so impressed with them, watching them play, and the Chaos just put the clamps on them. Defensively, the Chaos, everyone loves talking about, the Canadian influence on offense for the Chaos. Defensively, how locked down they were with Rowlett, Will Bowen, the rookie, is just proven himself left and right. We all know Rowlett. I mean, I guess everyone who's a lacrosse fan knows Will Bowen as well. But,
yeah, and Nooms. I mean,
exactly.
Those three back there. I mean, that's like when the Seahawks had Legion of Boom, and you were just like, you're not going to throw the ball on us. Sorry, it sucks for you.
And then to top it all off, they have Blaze in the cage.
And then they got Blaze.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about the long ball because Blaze is going to gobble it up. You got to get inside somehow, and Jack Rowlett's going to take your head off, and they're going to force you into shots that you're not crazy about. So if you're not moving constantly in a way that confuses the slide package, you don't stand a chance against this defense. And they can all run upfield too. So when you are making saves like that, now in this particular game, Sisselberger ate up Rowlett, but Rowlett for the most part has been very good for them. And even in this game, he put up a fight. So they're getting more possessions than they've ever gotten. Blaze is playoff Blaze already. Their defense is stacked. And now their offense is all back. So, this Chaos team, man, is going to be real tough to beat.
So just some stats off the bat. Blaze, 19 saves for 65%. 19 saves is a lot of rubber. And Josh Byrne, he comes back. He doesn't look tired from a long NLL season. 5 goals, 2 assists on 9 shots. Unbelievable. Brian Minikis is doing a great job quarterbacking that offense, I think. Mm-hmm. He's playing at X, and he doesn't play the Canadian game. But I think they have so many finishers on the Chaos, and he plays with his head up so well that he's just drawing slides and dumping the ball and getting, free assists, basically.
Yeah, he's got really good vision, man. He reminds me a lot of Ryan Boyle. And he protects his stick, he pushes GLE, and he finds the right spot. And that is an offense that never stops moving. Now, I always used to laugh about this because I used to remember when Junior would get done his indoor season and all those guys would come outdoor. And we'd all laugh about what a joke it is for them, right? You're playing indoor where you're running on, hard ground or AstroTurf. You're getting your brains beat in constantly. There's not a lot of room and space, and you got to shoot on a tiny net with a gigantic goalie. Now you're outside all of this space. Nobody is allowed to hit you in the kidneys anymore. Yeah. And the goalie is this big, and the goal is gigantic. They must laugh so hard when they get into that situation. It must be like shooting a basketball into the ocean for them.
On the Archer side of things, Ament goes out with an injury. He tweaked his hamstring. That's been a problem for him going back to last season. And, we talked about it before. Hamstrings just suck. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Especially when your entire game is explosiveness.
Absolutely. You could see the frustration from Ament, and you can tell there's just been nagging him. Are you worried if Ament can't – it's great. The timing to do that is probably the best right now because he'll have some time off to rehab it and rest it and just, get it right, ice it down, heat it up, all that good stuff to get it right. But if Ament doesn't or can't come back this year for the Archers, does that totally derail them or do they
It's a disaster because it affects O'Keefe a lot. And – You could have Connor Fields take more of a role similar to the dodging and feeding type, but no one. You have 2 guys on that roster who have probably, in my opinion, the 2 best guys with vision of the game right now with the ball in their stick, and it's Schreiber from up top, and it's Ament from either behind or from the wing, and that really affects it. When everybody on the planet knows. Don't slide off O'Keefe or he's going to bury it every time. But I have to because this freaking whirling dervish has the ball. That takes a lot of pressure off of defense with Ament not out there. And I'm just like, wow, I just feel so bad for him because he's a phenomenal dude. But 2, same thing. We were talking about this early in the last season when him and Sowers were hurt again early. I was like, it just sucks because as fans – we deserve to see Grant Ament fully healthy for a season. And it just hasn't happened yet, and I feel so sorry for him.
Yeah, we wish him, the best of luck getting better, getting right. We want to see him out there dicing people up from behind, hanging defensemen up on the back of the cage. So I wish him well in his recovery. And that brings us to the last game of the weekend. And, I think some people were calling it online the rivalry. Redwoods, Whipsnakes. You've played in these matchups, but I saw some people going back saying, it's not much of a rivalry when the Whips kind of own them.
This is in my opinion right now, and I am a Penn State alum, and I'm a Redwoods alum. This is right now, Penn State football can't call Ohio State a rival because we keep getting smashed by them every year until we win a couple in a row. The record's not great against the Whips, and I would love for it to be a rivalry. And someone was like, this is like the Ravens and the Steelers. No, it's not, dude. They split every year, and they see each other in the playoffs every year. Now, early on, the first couple of years, you could have probably said it, but the distance has gotten further. And this game, the Whips don't have Brad Smith yet. They just got Zed back, and Redwoods TD won the majority of the faceoffs convincingly, and they got
20 of 29.
pumped. Yeah, he went over 66%. They got pumped, and you have to wonder, because then you look at the game and you go, okay, well, second half, they actually outscored the Whips. But they had what was it, a 7-1 for second quarter?
It was 6-2 first quarter, 7-1 second quarter. It was a blowout. And It was eye-popping, especially with the Whip Snakes starting the season 0-2. Everyone, that has a brain in between their ears knew that the Whip Snakes weren't going to, continue to lose. They're too good. And they just play. I don't know. We have to ask our boy Keegan to run some stats on this. I wonder if they have the most core members still from the original 2019 or whatever the first year was roster. If
it's not them, it's probably the Redwoods,
right?
But yeah, they have a majority of guys who are. See, that's the thing, right? Is when you've won enough times with a squad, there's no issue trusting the coach if you lose a couple. The same leaders are there. You still have Earhart, best long pole midi in the game. You have Rambo, one of the best attackmen in the game. You have you have, by the way, Burglar is playing unbelievable. Probably the best I've seen him play, which is saying a lot because he's a stud. And the whole defense is Maryland guys. And they're all like cohesive. And so when you lose a couple, you're like, look, we know what we do works. We just have to execute a little bit more. And it seemed like Rambo was way more aggressive this game.
Yeah, I think especially with I don't want to say transition, but he's definitely letting the game come to him a little bit more, I feel like, where he but he takes what the defense gives him. And if he has to be a feeder, he's going to be a feeder. If he has to call his own number, go to the cage, he'll call his own number, go to the cage. I think Bernlor might have had 2 assists to him this week in the 10-man ride. And you brought up a couple games ago about the lack of during the week practices. And when the Redwoods throw in a 10-man ride, when they've probably practiced it a total of 4 times, the wheels are going to come off the bus. You can't just throw in a 10-man ride without repping it like over and over and over again in practice. And
I think we've seen the 10-man ride in this league doesn't work. One, you have guys with just way too much composure. And 2, the field is so short that 90% of the guys in the league, I could shoot from the defensive end and score. The field is so short. Like, it's not great. I could see you going into a 10-man ride after a face-off win backwards because the clock is short and you have a face-off guy with the ball. But yeah, I think the 10-man ride has to be something that's going to transition itself right out of the pro game.
It's just something that has to be repped ad nauseum, or else if one person misses an assignment, the whole thing goes to shit.
And you know what you're not doing? The practice the night before a game.
Is repping.
All right, guys, for the next 45 minutes, we're just going to go over the 10-man. Dude, 2 guys are still getting their stuff at the airport. This guy doesn't have his bag. Like, there's no way.
I feel like most pregame practices, you never go full pads. It's helmet and gloves. You're snapping the ball around, and then you're doing shooting drills, and defense are picking up ground balls. Maybe you'll
getting your sticks dialed.
Yeah,
getting worked on by the trainer, getting your legs under you.
I could be wrong. I don't know how teams are doing it these days, but I feel that it's more of a walkthrough than it is a practice.
Yeah.
But I mean, transitioning to the Redwoods side of it, I think a defense that prides itself. They have a lot of pride down the defensive end. Letting up 18 goals is going to sting for them. I'm sure they're going to bounce back, especially with Kelly and net. Our boy Ryder Garnsey continues to just put his mark on this season. He is just ripping it up. He's scoring goals in ways that a lot of people probably have never seen goals before. And he's a stall. He's just a mainstay on SportsCenter Top 10, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, Keegan actually had a funny tweet. He was saying how if they made a video game, it wouldn't even be fun to play because you wouldn't be able to even do the things that Ryder does. And he's right. Like how would like EA Sports couldn't even come up with this shit.
No.
You know what I think is the big thing that the Redwoods are missing is their number one pick. And Owen Grant not playing right now is a big deal. And
So he
I
played
think
a little bit, I think, then came out, right?
yeah, he's not 100%. In fact, it just got announced that he's not going to play in the World Games. That is a massive loss for Canada, and we'll talk more about that. But like, the kid is phenomenal, and it would make a big difference for them. It would give Sexton a little bit of a breather, and it would anchor their D a little bit more. So you're right. That defense that really prides itself, especially because Jack Kelly's playing great. He's been awesome at the beginning of the season. So, you know, the offense needs to be consistent, and that has unfortunately been an issue the last few years. As the offense gets hot, offense gets real cold, and I don't really know how you fix that.
Last thing I'll touch on this game is I think Will Manny, again, he came out of the gates last year hot with the Archers. He's coming out of the gates very hot again this year, and he's contributing all over the field. He seems to love playing with, you know, Rambo and Zed and those middies.
Shocking.
Yeah. You mentioned something interesting that I wonder if it will change as the season goes on. Dordovic leads the PLL in shots. How rare is it for a rookie to get that long of a leash, especially when you have that many studs around him?
Yeah, it's.
Has it ever happened before? So maybe
Yeah, I
Paul
mean, look,
Rabel's
it's not
been-
like if you're Stags and you draft him, you don't know what you're getting. So I don't think it's one of those things where Stags is in the locker room screaming at him, stop shooting, because he's a volume shooter. As Coach Dino says, shoot to get hot, shoot to stay hot. But I think at some point, if it's detrimental, yeah, I think it's not a big deal because, at least in my assessment, he doesn't get saved very often. He misses the cage or he stings corners.
It's a good
So
point.
it's like, yo, if you have a shot and you're the man and it's backed up, like it doesn't really, whatever. The worst thing that happens is now Rambo gets it on the end line. Like, so
I
it's all
think
good.
I think the other thing is too was playing with the supporting cast he's playing with. He's not getting a pole all the time, and he's
Dude, could
yeah,
you imagine that kid not getting a pole? He must be happier than a pig in
and
shit.
he's able to generate shots at will. So that's probably
Yes.
another reason why he's taking so many is because if it's 8 seconds in the shot clock, is he going to dump it in the corner? No, he's going to
Nope.
make a hard move and roll back to his strong hand and fire one off the guy's hip. He's always
Yeah.
able to generate a shot.
Yeah, good for him being a rookie, having that kind of confidence, especially on a team that's veteran laden that has titles all up and down. I think good for him having that, and I also think that obviously he was told he has that green light by the people around him, so that's pretty cool.
Well, that wraps up our recap on the PLL Week 3 out of Columbus, Ohio. We have a break in action in the PLL due to the World Games. We'll touch on that in a second. We will get back to the PLL in Week 4 on Saturday, July 8th in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's a cool location they have this year. I think they do it at the Vikings facility there, so that'll be cool.
Gorgeous.
But yeah, I mean,
gorgeous.
without let's get right into World Games. You see Greg, if you're watching, he's repping his Team USA jersey from 2018. I'm sure that thing
Sleeveless.
still smells like beer from celebrating. But let's get right into it. What are you most excited for? Just give me some storylines you think out of this year in San Diego. What's the first thing that comes to your head?
So I can start with the face-off portion. You have TD and Trevor, who are, I mean, Trevor is absolutely the best face-off man in the world right now. And TD is also top 5 easily. And those two are going to be teaming up. And I know what kind of feeling that is to have, a kind of a rival. Chris Eck and I did it in 2014, and it was special. It brought us, we became close after that. And I have heard that the international rules are going to be way more strict now. So there's no more guessing games like you'll see in the past, where the ref is now going to make sure you're set, make sure you're off the plastic. They're going to back out and blow the whistle. That's a massive deal because now Team USA is going to have a huge advantage. You thought we were crushing it in the last couple World Games. Wait till you see how easy this is going to be. So that's one thing to watch out for because especially in the gold medal game, possession is key. You have Withers and Inacio in Canada. That's going to be awesome. The goalie battle is going to be huge. Love seeing Jack Kelly get back out there. I mean, it's just heartwarming to see him on that team. Blaze versus Wardo in goal is going to be electric as well. I think this team is really built to win this thing, this Team USA. I think they have phenomenal D-mids. I think they have a lot of cohesiveness on the offense. It's a young injection of talent. And it's also got the right pieces where there's veterans. You have Mike Earhart, who's still arguably the greatest LSM in the world. There's just a lot of good pieces up and down. So I'm excited for that. Outside of those two teams, Group B, Japan. I fully expect Japan to win that division. I think Japan is going to be upgraded to the blue division after these games. The trajectory that Japanese lacrosse is on is pretty impressive. I know you've gotten a chance to see them play recently, right?
So I spoke about in college, we would scrimmage Kyoto University. Japan, they would come over and do a circuit. So I saw them play then, so not too recently, but they play the same brand of lacrosse where they fly around, they just cut at will, they zip the ball around. Their stick skills are great, and it's a funny brand of lacrosse that's a little different than how we play here in America. And people, the Canadians play their own brand of lacrosse, and they're putting their stamp on how they play, and it's fun to watch. But before we even get into that, I have a couple buddies, one who's playing for Ireland, shout out Luke Palmadesso, face-off guy from Villanova, and shout out Christian Cuccinello, who's playing for Team Italy, and Harry Delaferra playing from Team Italy, a bunch of Nova alumni. So I spoke to them today for about 20 minutes just trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Because, and I think the listeners might benefit from it as well, because Pool A has the big dogs, right? Yeah. You call it the blue division. I'm looking at this right now. Pool A, United States, Canada, the Iroquois Nationals, Australia, England. I'm sorry if Iroquois Nationals isn't politically correct anymore. I just don't know if I can pronounce it. Haudenosaunee. Thank you. And Pool B, which we talked about, Japan, has Japan, Uganda, Wales, France, Denmark. And then it goes Pool C, Pool D, Pool E, Pool F. And from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, you play within your own pool in pool play. And yes. Pool A, that blue division with U.S. and Canada, everyone makes it out of that into the next round.
No. The top four teams in the Pool A then go on to a semifinal and a championship.
So, Japan can't play Team USA in any circumstance.
Japan will not play Team USA. No.
So maybe it's different, or maybe I got bad info. The way it was described to me was that the top two teams come out of each pool, and then they all funnel in. And so there is a chance they could play. No, that's wrong.
No. So there is, I forget if there's quarterfinals. I'm going to be totally honest, and I don't want to sound like a dick. We were always one or two. Actually, every time I played, we were one. So we could have gotten a bye maybe. Maybe there's a quarterfinal first. I can't even tell you. But I know for a fact that there's no instance in where a blue division, or I guess they're calling it Group A now, is going to play somebody out of that division. And just so people understand, the level between the two divisions is very high. And the level between those two divisions and the third division is a big gap. So, there's no way. Now, that's not to say I don't know if they do it differently anywhere else. I know in the past there was, back when it was not called World Lacrosse Championships. What was it called? It was called the FIL Championships or whatever. I know that other divisions would play each other based on where they ended or whatever, but there's no shot USA plays Japan in these World Games. That's
interesting.
Not gonna happen.
Okay, so first off, the World Lacrosse website needs to do a better job. They need to hire someone, because I should be able to figure this out all from the website, and not like I'm at a youth lacrosse jamboree going winner of game 67 versus winner of game 64 and trying to find it on the map. And they don't have rosters up. I wanted to look at rosters today. And funny thing about the rosters, that what I did find is Zed Williams is listed as a defenseman for the. I'm gonna try it. Haudenosaunee.
Yeah.
He's listed as a defenseman. So
Maybe he's playing defense, man.
he's just doing
Maybe
whatever.
maybe Coach Lars Tiffany told him to grab a Woody and get out there.
Maybe. I mean, you look at the Iroquois team; they are so loaded at attack. I mean, it's a who's of dominant attackmen in the last 10, 12 years with the Thompson brothers, the Stats brothers, Tahoka. They're loaded, and they definitely have a little bit of a fall off when it comes to their defense. So it'd be interesting to see Zed out there with the 6-foot guy whacking some people. I'm sure he's a beast. I'm sure he's going to literally sit in a chair and lock people down.
If you want to see some carnage, okay, Team USA versus Canada to start things off is always electric. It's unbelievable. It's more electric than the gold medal game because it's the first time you're stepping on the field in international play and everyone's kind of losing their minds. You want to see carnage, though? Watch Canada versus Haudenosaunee. That is going to – dude, when those two teams play each other, the wooden D shafts come out and they try to kill each other. It is unbelievable to watch. And I can admit, like, we would watch – if those two teams would play in the semifinal, like, we would be sitting in the locker room, like, watching the game and be like, man, I hope they just blow each other right off the planet. I hope there's not much left for us to play in the gold medal game. So, yeah, if you like intense physical lacrosse, don't miss that matchup in the tournament.
I think I figured out this chart, too, and it's something that I definitely want to look into a little bit more. It looks like for the playoffs, they seed 14 teams, which if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pools, they took the 4 best teams out of Pool A and then 2 teams out of the other 5. That's 14. So they took the top 4 in Pool A and the top 2 in the other pools,
and then they rank them.
And so 1 and 2 get buys directly to the quarterfinals, and it goes 5 versus 12, 6 versus 11, 4 versus 13, 7 versus 10, 3 versus 14, 8 versus 9, and then it goes quarterfinals, semifinals, championship.
Wow, it must be different now. Because I remember when we would do it, we only would play in the semifinal and then the final.
So if this I'm looking at
that's actually cooler. I like this way better.
I'm looking at the 2023 game schedule for San Diego 23 because I remember last time I was looking at this, I was looking at the Birmingham Sixes event, which was incorrect. So I'm on the right page. It's looking like they're seeding 14 teams come out of pool play. 1 and 2 get buys to the quarterfinals. So there might be some crossover. So we might get a Japan versus USA or Japan versus Canada. So it'll be awesome to see them get an opportunity to play up into that next pool.
That is so cool. I'm assuming that they're just taking the top 2 seeds in the A division as the number 1 and 2 seeds.
They'd have to, right?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see like Germany goes undefeated and they get the number 1 seed or something. Nothing against Germany.
Goal differential.
But yeah, goal differential. Dude, I love this. And like I said, it's World Lacrosse now. It was FIL. I don't know exactly the politics behind what happened in the restructuring, but I think this is really cool. This gives us an opportunity, just as Americans, to see more countries playing, and these games will be on ESPN+. So it's going to be sick to watch.
I was just going to say, this episode will probably come out on Wednesday or Friday, but this whole weekend, I looked at the ESPN app today, from Thursday to Sunday, Monday is wire to wire with lacrosse. And
is it ESPN Plus vibes or is it ESPN in general?
So the big games, USA Canada will play Wednesday night on ESPN2 at 10 p.m. I'm a little bit bummed about that. I think they should have tailored a little bit more to the Eastern time zone, but that's here nor there. And I think that I don't have it up in front of me, but I did see somewhere that the big games like the quarterfinals, semifinals, championship are all either ESPNU or ESPN2. A lot of the lower pool games will be televised on ESPN Plus on the app throughout the week. But I'm excited to tune into those games. Like I mentioned, I have some buddies that are playing. So it's awesome to see those teams compete and see guys that I played with or against in college still out there and representing their countries, their heritage.
It's just awesome what ESPN has totally bought into lacrosse, pro level, the college level, the women's side. And now the international level, like just I remember 2014, it was like there was a live stream for the gold medal game, and just within 10 years, here we are, and now every game, you can watch Wales versus Scotland if you want at 2 in the morning on ESPN Plus. That's sick. And I think what's really cool about it is that there's gonna be new names that are gonna pop up. Like somebody from Wales is gonna make some kind of sick play and score, and it's gonna pop up, and everyone's gonna be talking about it inside lacrosse. Like that's gonna be the coolest thing. And I think that it feels like it shrinks the lacrosse community down worldwide and makes it feel like even more of like a fraternity, which I love. So I'm really excited about that.
I'd love to see some people that are under the radar play themselves into, PLL consideration. I think that's definitely a possibility. So cool to see these guys that may not, get the spotlight as much, get a chance to shine on ESPN. And just to kind of cap it off, I have a, devil's advocate question for you. In any world, does US or Canada not win the gold?
Somewhere in the multiverse, probably. This time around, this USA and Canada team are going to be super legit. I still think you need to give it more time. I actually think you need sixes to catch on for this thing to get towards the Olympics, for you to see more of a challenger in the world lacrosse ranking. I just think the possession advantage and the goaltending that USA and Canada have alone is going to really make them head and shoulders above everybody else.
Give me your prediction for Wednesday night's matchup, Canada-USA.
I think USA is going to win the pool play game in a slobber knocker. And then you will see it happens. Canada plays a different style in pool play. They let it fly. They're not scared of anything. Then when they get into medal rounds, that's when they start to hold the ball for a really long time and play like boring you to death lacrosse, which is super effective. So I think USA will win this first game. It is interesting, Sibes. This is the first time that I ever remember since the inception of professional lacrosse that there wasn't some kind of Team USA versus other pros all-star game or something to get them ready for this. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing yet. I know for us, losing in the all-star game was a nice little smack in the face, like, yo, you're not invincible just because you have USA on your chest. So that's what I'm interested to see what that does.
It's a great point, and I think that you see now with the PLL, the league is a little bit more hesitant with letting players participate in lacrosse outside of the PLL.
Yes.
In the past, right, Canadians have been able to play in their senior A box leagues, and in the MLL they weren't afraid to like scrimmage other, like you mentioned, tune-up games, if you will.
Well, I think the difference is Team USA had a bigger following than the MLL at some points. And in the PLL, I feel like they're getting their own following that's really large. And it's become a property. And now it's like we have to protect our investments.
And it's going to be really interesting if, the PLL continues to grow. You see it in the NHL, where NHL teams won't send their studs to play in the Olympics because they're paying them too much money to put them at risk of getting injured or something happening to them while they're in the Olympics. We're not there yet in lacrosse. Obviously, we hope no one gets injured this coming up weeks. But it's definitely an interesting thought when you are trying to grow the sport and you're trying to compare lacrosse to other leagues and what they do. But I'm a little off tangent there. But I'm super excited for this. Be sure to tune in next week. We'll recap the week of the World Games lacrosse. This has been awesome preview. I'm super excited for the games. I'm definitely going to tune in. There's nothing I love more than weeknight lacrosse because what else am I going to do on a weeknight?
So, yeah, look at you. You're a kid in a candy store, man.
Well, that concludes our PLL recap and our World Games preview. Be sure to tune in all week on ESPN Plus and all of the subsidiaries to watch all of these stars play, represent their countries. It's going to be great to watch. It's going to be some really competitive games, and there's going to be some countries that surprise you that, they have ballers over there too. So make sure you tune in, and we will be sure to break down those games for you next week. And without further ado, we have a very special guest this week, Sam Handley on the Chrome Lacrosse Club, drafted 4th overall in the PLL this year after a storied career at the University of Pennsylvania. He's a beast on the field, and I'm super excited to chop it up with him and get to know the man behind the mask. So here's Sam Handley. And a very special welcome to the podcast, Sam Handley of the Chrome Lacrosse Club, former member of the University of Pennsylvania. After some schedule juggling on our end for a few weeks, we finally got him on. We've wanted him on since he was drafted 4th overall, and we're super excited to have this rookie star in the PLL on our podcast this week. So welcome, Sam.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Sam, one of the first things that we talked about on draft night when you were drafted was the style of play that you have in college lacrosse. I loved watching it. It was just so smash mouth and like the truck stick into like a roll dodge into like sticking a game winning goal. And I was like, I wonder, because I was like, this is a big dude. I wonder if he can do this to grown men. And then your first game in, you did it to grown men. So tell us about the transition you've had so far from college ball to the pros. Like, what's been the difference?
Well, I think just understanding that it's a totally different game with the new shot clock, and also exactly to your point, you're not playing against college kids anymore. You're playing against grown ass men, so it's different, and it's an adjustment, and definitely with the shot clock, it feels a lot more like basketball than it does college lacrosse.
Yeah, and then when when you came in, like who was somebody on the roster right away? You were like, holy shit, I've been watching that guy for years. Like who was somebody that kind of like caught your eye?
That's a great question. Probably Colin Heacock. We spent some time together at like the Team USA training camps. We were roommates, double H last names, and pretty cool to be, officially finally teammates with a guy like that.
Yeah, especially a walking cartoon character like Heacock.
He's one of the guys where you see him play and you're like, that guy's huge, and you see him in person and you're like, he needs a shirt that's 3 sizes bigger because he's about to bust out of that thing. He's massive.
I think he might buy a shirt that's a little small, but
But first I want to go over like your experience at UPenn. Tell us about that experience, that coaching staff, and what it was like.
I really don't have enough good things to say about my time at Penn. Between getting, receiving a world-class education and then having a, on-the-field first-class experience too. I never expected to have all these good things in lacrosse that happened to me. I just, was hoping to maybe play by my senior year. So to be in the position that I am today and for all the things that have happened to me that have happened, I got to owe it to them and, for recruiting some kid from fucking Oregon.
I think that's such a good mentality to go into it with, and it's not self-deprecating, but it's just being humble and going and say, I hope I get to be a contributor on this team at some point, right? And that I think promotes growth. And you see a lot of times people come out of high school and being these recruits and they don't turn out right, but that's a great thing that I just caught on, how humble, going, I just hope I get to play by my junior year. But man, you had such an unbelievable career, so much fun to watch. And correct me if I'm wrong, did you have another year of eligibility that you could have used?
I did.
So what was that decision process like?
I was just kind of burnt out and it was just time. I feel like I just remember being like a senior in high school, wanting to be so done with my high school experience, and the thought of being in college for another year just didn't feel right. And, I didn't want my legacy to be left anywhere else but Penn. I didn't want to have like an asterisk next to my name. Unfortunately, I am sad that I didn't get 4 at Penn, but I made it work as long as I could.
Yeah, plus I feel like your generation of players that played during the pandemic, especially the Ivy League guys, it must feel like you've been there for a decade with all the stuff that you guys had to go through.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it before, but the Ivy League definitely, they screwed us pretty good. That 2021 season, they kept us in the dark for the whole year and waited until after tuition payments had been processed to cancel our seasons. So,
Oof.
what are you going to do?
Yeah, not right. So now post college life, what's keeping you busy besides playing in the Premier Lacrosse League?
Got a bunch of stuff, man. It's so liberating to not be constrained to one goal, one practice all the time. Like in college, it's very easy to get wrapped up in um, just kind of the ebbs and flows of the season where that's really all you're doing. So I start a new job that I'm excited about in July. I got this little passion project of mine, selling snack bars that we'll see how far I go with it, but it's something I've been working on for a while, and the idea is to hopefully leverage kind of my notoriety in the PLL, and something that's cool and fun and important to me to share with other people. So between those three things, pro lacrosse player, granola bars, and a job, that's what's keeping me busy these days.
Besides, we got to get our hands on some of those
I
bars,
know.
man.
Tell me more. I'm intrigued. Tell me more
I
about
love
these
snacks.
bars.
Yeah, so ever since my family's been a little bit on the quirkier health side, and I got really sick when I was a sophomore in high school. And the best way to go about like fixing me was to change all these things in my diet. So I went gluten free, went very low sugar, and so like those eating real food and avoiding harmful seed oils and shit like that is something that's been really important to me. And so when I was thinking, I was at halftime during a game, and I was looking down at my kind bar that I was eating, and I was really unsatisfied with the things I was seeing and eating. And I thought I could probably do this better. And I thought my story and kind of my family story was compelling enough to make a brand out of it. So
What's it called? Gas yourself up more.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's called Famous Brothers. I'm doing it with my younger brother, and he's kind of famous in his little own niche. And together we're just gonna see what we can do.
Dude, that's so cool, man. How old's your brother?
He's 20.
Dude, that's sick. Going into business with your brother, absolutely the coolest.
Yeah, I think so too.
So are you
Famous
based in it? Are
Brothers.
you sorry, Sibes, are you back in Oregon now? Where are you living at?
I'm back in Oregon, and I moved to LA for the job in a month, or in a week rather. Sorry.
Very cool. And you're gonna be basing the bar out of LA or
No, so the company is technically incorporated in Bend, Oregon, and then we'll run it remote, and just use our third party manufacturer and supplier, and then a third party distributor to get all our bars. Once you buy them from the website, they'll send it out. Yeah.
love it. Oh.
Yeah, you can
Can't
give
wait
us a
to get
follow at
Damn, man.
famous.brothers on Instagram. That's us.
Okay, so what is it again on Instagram?
Famous.brothers.
Famous.brothers.
All right,
That's
everyone,
it.
check that out. I'm excited to get my hands on one of these. Eating good is definitely, I try to keep it a priority in any way I can. If it's easily accessible, I think that's just gravy. So that's awesome, man. And what are you doing for work in LA coming up?
I got a finance job. Yeah, exciting too.
And
Just go
but
ahead.
to all the listeners out there that are going to be seniors in college next year, listen to what he did. He graduated and then he gave himself a buffer before he started his job. Right, he gave himself a little summer vacation till July. That's a veteran move right there. You don't want to jump right into it. Give yourself some time off. Enjoy your summer a little bit. So kudos to you on that.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So what's the long play now with PLL? Is because I know a lot of guys, they come into the league, they're kind of like for myself, I can say I never expected to be good enough to play professional lacrosse. And then when I got drafted and I played, I figured I just hope I could stick around. And then next thing you know, it becomes a career. Are you looking for a short term type of thing, or is it like, you know what, I'm going to see if I can really become like a long term pro in this?
Well, I think the answer is that the league is more competitive than it's ever been ever. And I think the answer to your question is as long as I can still play at an elite level and contribute, and I, I would like to play as long as I can. But the truth is that, in the next 5 years, there's going to be so much influx of talent that it's going to be really hard to keep a roster spot. So the answer to your question is that as long as I can make it work with the other things that I love doing, and still play an elite level, I don't see any reason why I would stop.
Very cool. Very cool. And then what is your thought process on the them going away from the strict tour-based model to franchised, home-based model?
Yeah, well, Yeah, a lot of people are really curious about the PLL, right? Because it's making headlines everywhere, and it's this new sports league. And I just got to say, like, from an outside perspective before I came, and then now as a player, in a business where you need to make a million decisions, I don't think the PLL front office has made a bad one yet.
Yeah.
I think right now the way the league is structured is in the fandom experience is that everyone who goes to the games is a fan of the league or a fan of the sport and fans of players. But moving to a city and kind of basing the team in the city is going to be really good. It's going to change the fan experience. It's like I was thinking about some of the other parallels in sports like MLS or NHL, which I don't know anything about, but what I know about those games is that it's really fun to be a fan.
Yeah.
It's fun to get behind a city and a team, and I think that's what the PLL is trying to do with these cities. So I think all around great move by them.
It's funny, Sam. I said this when the league started, and I kind of likened what Paul and Mike were doing with the PLL to like me being one of my friends who, in my friend group, I was one of the last people to get married. And you go to everybody else's wedding, and you're like, we're not doing that. That's stupid. Oh, I really like that. So then your wedding's like the best one. And I feel like Paul and other players, Schreiber and Harry and the other guys who were involved in it, we all watched the MLL very closely for years. And it was like, these are the things that absolutely have to get knocked off the table. And what we have is all the cream that rose to the top that were done right and all the things that players knew we could do right. And they've been very calculated about it. And I agree with you on that. And the franchise model is going to be interesting. And the only reason I think it's going to be interesting, because I love the way they're going to still tour base it, is it's like, okay, you're just hosting it for that weekend, is a lot of you guys haven't dealt with mean away fans in professional lacrosse yet. Like that one year that I played in the PLL, it was like every week everyone's cheering for you. And you're like, this is weird. But then you go to like, Sives will tell you, you go play at a Cannons game in Harvard, and they're throwing batteries at you, and they all know your sister's name somehow, and they're screaming at you the entire sideline. You're going to start to get the mean people coming back again, which will be really interesting.
Yeah, I hadn't even given that any thought, but I think any kind of attention for the sport is a good thing. And I think like one of the hardest things that PLL is going to have to overcome is how do you get people who know nothing about lacrosse to show up at a lacrosse game, right? Because anyone who loves lacrosse knows what the PLL is, and they'll follow it because they love the sport and they want to see it do well. But if you can create a fan experience that's similar, like I said, I know nothing about hockey, but I know that those games are fun. If you can create that kind of perception to any average Joe on the street, then that's when the league, I think, will really kind of take off and become one of those big four, big five sports leagues in America.
I agree. And I also think that one of the cool things that the PL has is like something like this right now. Like when I was playing the MLL, there were no 30-somethings, 20-somethings talking about Major League Lacrosse on a podcast. You had like Kyle Devitt, who was doing his best to try to cover it, and everybody else was just like, pro lacrosse, they don't make any money, who gives a shit? But now on Twitter, people are arguing about who the Chrome should start in goal. Like, that is stuff that never happened in the past. And I think just having you on here, like the players, you guys have been so cool about jumping on this show and sharing your experiences, I think just projects it out wider. But what I do want to talk about a little bit is I want to talk about the Chrome specifically. Last week, it was a tough one, and I want to see, like, what are you guys feeling right now? Like, what do you guys need to do a little bit better after the break to really get the ship sailing in the right direction?
I think we just need to be, more consistent in every phase of the game. I think we also just are having some growing pains. Our roster's shifted around week to week, and when you don't have as much time to prepare, it's harder to get in a rhythm with the guys that you're around. Just figuring out what Dylan Malloy likes to do and where you can be on the field relative to him and put him in a good spot, put yourself in a good spot relative to him. So I think the answer is just it's a lot of growing pain when you have as much roster turnover as we had, and what's true is that every guy in that locker room is extremely motivated because at this level, the only reason you keep playing is to win. And especially on the Chrome, we're not flashy guys. We're not all in your face about the camera. All we want to do is just win and do well. So, we're highly motivated, and obviously obviously this is the best team skill wise that I've been a part of. So, yeah, I don't have any lack of confidence that we won't figure it out.
That's such a great point, and I'm a self-proclaimed Chrome fan. I think as we've been doing this podcast, I think that they were in a position where they almost were down at the bottom of the basement of the league a few years ago, and just seeing the trajectory, they're getting better and better each year. They add a piece like yourself, and it's a huge addition to the roster. And I talk about you say not flashy in your face. I think that's why I love the team so much. Just meat and potatoes, hard hat
The
and lunch
men,
pail. Yeah,
the men.
just type of hard hat and lunch pail brand lacrosse, and just love to see it. Specifically, your role fitting in going from Penn, where you're practicing every day. You talk about chemistry, knowing what each other likes. Now in pro lacrosse, right, you're in a scenario where you have a short training camp and you practice once a week before the games. You talked about that adjustment, but talk about specifically your role where, in college you were the guy and you had all eyes on you. Have you kind of shifted the way you're approaching your game right now in terms of how it fits in the offense?
I think I'm having more fun. It's definitely, when you're the center of attention in college, all eyes are on you, and if you lose, it's your fault. It's not anybody else's fault, especially when you're in the spotlight. So,
Getting a
I think
shorty's fun
too,
sometimes, right?
hitting a shorty's fun. I don't know how long that's gonna last, but
You're right.
again, I'm surrounded by Torch and winners, first team All-Americans, Schmeiser Award winners, all up and down the field. So. Anyone with a brain who watches lacrosse can see that it's a team game at this level, and it's not just one individual in college. And just to kind of have that pressure off my back is definitely liberating. And I think too, can't remember what I was going to say. It was something really good though.
Oh man.
Um, but yeah, that's all I got, I think.
Well, let me ask you this, because we talk about this a lot with guys who come into the pro league. I had a great experience in, like, once the handcuffs were off a little bit, once I wasn't getting yelled at for one-handed ground balls and all this other stuff, and now I can just play. I felt like I was a way better pro than college guy. Do you have any stuff that you kind of feel like you're a little bit more relaxed and that you can do that you think you're good at that you really didn't have license to do in college?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think too, like for our coaching staff, like I'm a really unique prospect, just because the size, the speed, the two-handedness. Like a lot of guys have their spots on the field. They're like, I want to get to this spot. This is what I'm good at, and to do it at a really high level. And just because I'm a rookie, I don't know if I really found that spot because I never. That wasn't really like a thing that crossed my mind in college. Just go out there and play and fill in wherever. But at this level, when everyone's so elite, you kind of sometimes have to find your niche. And I haven't, between the coaching staff and I, we haven't quite found that for me yet. And but I don't have a lack of confidence that I will. So I think the answer to your question is maybe. We'll see.
We'll find it, man. We'll find it. How do you feel about the fast clock after the faceoff win?
It's definitely an adjustment. Yeah, like I said, like we've had some, a hard time kind of finding our flow on offense, but I still think there's plenty of time, especially when you're going up and down with there's minimal riding. There's definitely enough time to have great offensive possessions where you're spinning, as opposed to just playing like hero ball one-on-one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Got
I
to
feel
start
like
lining you up with some two bombs.
Dude, that's what I'm saying, man. Get me some Sam two bombs.
That'd be great. I took one and it got stopped. So I don't know. We'll see.
Don't stop shooting, kid. Don't stop shooting,
Right,
kid.
gotta keep
Fuck
shooting.
it.
Fuck it. That's right.
A lot of goalies will tell you. I remember Drew Adams will tell you, and Kincannon will tell you the same thing. Two bombs are the hardest thing to save.
Yeah.
Especially with the grippy ball, the movement on it, and traffic. And Drew Adams, 1-on-1, 2 feet away from his face, no problem, save. Two bomb, he's thinking about it so much. Hated it.
Yeah, I can see too when the goalies let one in. That's like they get really pissed. Much more like pissed than like a doorstep dunk.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
it's like meaning in their face. A two bomb is like disheartening.
Yeah, so keep shooting them, man.
That's right. That's right.
I'm gonna bet the over on Sam Two Bombs next week.
Well, man, we have all the confidence in you, and I have all the confidence in the Chrome. I'm going to keep cheering you guys on this year. Greg, you got anything else for our boy before we let him go?
No, man, I just love your game, dude. Keep doing your thing. I know the Chrome are going to be just fine, and you're going to be just fine. So great to have you on here, dude. Good luck the rest of the season, bud.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. And thanks
And
for having me.
everyone listening, be sure to check out famous.brothers on Instagram. Check out Sam's granola bar company. Get that good food in you. You can see the beast that's turned him into. So get yourself some of those.
That's
I already
us,
gave it a
man.
follow.
That's us. That's us.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
Sam,
about a
thanks.
month out from going to market. Stay updated. Put your email in the website, and we'll get you going.
Hell yeah.
Right.
Well, Sam, this was a blast. Thanks so much, man. We're cheering you on the rest of the season. Best of luck, man.
Great, guys. Thank you very much.
Welcome back from that interview with Sam Handley. Such a cool experience talking to him. I've never met him before. Such a cool dude. He has so many things going for him right now. Starting his new job, cheering on his granola bar company he's working on with his brother. That's so cool. And, like he said, he wants to keep doing this as long as he can, and I think he will be. He's an elite talent. We saw him in the college level, and I think he's going to get his footing in the PLL and do some great things. But, man, Greg, that's the episode. We talked about a lot. A lot happened, but love doing this with you as always. Great epi, man.
Always a pleasure, man. Everybody enjoy the break. Enjoy the World Games. It's going to be sick. Go USA. Still champs. Bring it home. Booyah! Heels. Heels didn't think I would do it.
And make sure if you're listening, if you're not subscribed by now, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Subscribe to us on Apple, on Spotify, and if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the TorchPro YouTube channel. If you have some comments, tweet at us. We've been engaging more on Twitter. Shane, you've been doing a great job running our Twitter account. Shout out to him. Leave a comment, leave a review in the podcast. We'll get to it. We'll shout you out if we like it, and if you talk shit to us, maybe we'll still shout you out too.
We'll have Scotty read it.
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah. Well, that is episode 34 of Rise Up the Podcast, and we'll be back next week breaking down everything that happened in the World Games. So we will see you then.